Was nearly midnight when Claire Dawson, CEO of Dawson Dynamics, stood frozen outside a dimly lit community center on the poor side of town. She had just followed her former employee, Mark Evans, after curiosity gnawed at her for hours. Through the cracked window, she saw him, the man she'd fired that morning, on his knees, surrounded by children in wheelchairs. He was fixing a broken prosthetic limb with nothing but a soldering iron, scrap parts, and that same gentle smile she used to overlook at the office. Her throat tightened as she heard one of the kids say, "Mr. Mark, will I be able to run again?" And Mark, wiping his tired eyes, replied softly, "You'll run faster than anyone, buddy. I promise." That night, Claire realized, she hadn't fired a lazy man. She'd fired a hero. The glass walls of Dawson Dynamics gleamed under the morning sun, reflecting a world of perfection, polished floors, expensive suits, punctual employees. But Mark Evans didn't fit that picture. Every morning, he rushed through the doors 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes late. His shirt slightly wrinkled, hair a little messy, always clutching a cup of gas station coffee. To the executives, he was just another mid-level maintenance engineer, replaceable, invisible. But to his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, he was everything. Mark was a single dad. His wife, Emily, had passed away 3 years ago from leukemia, leaving behind medical bills and a little girl with a heart condition. Since then, his world revolved around keeping Lily alive and smiling. Each morning was chaos. Lily's medicine, breakfast, the long bus ride to her special needs school, and then his frantic sprint to the company gates. No matter how early he woke up, life always threw something unexpected: a fever, a missed bus, a broken inhaler. Still, he never complained. He worked overtime, fixed the company's broken systems, and even volunteered to repair the old elevator when no one else would. He believed that hard work would eventually speak louder than his lateness. But in the corporate world, compassion didn't fit the clock. That morning, Claire Dawson noticed him again on the security feed, late for the 3rd time that week. Claire was everything Mark wasn't: elegant, punctual, flawless. Her father had built Dawson Dynamics from scratch, and she inherited both the company and his perfectionist fire. She'd built a reputation as the Ice Queen, fair but unforgiving. When Mark arrived, breathing hard, she called him into her office. "Mr. Evans," she said coldly, not even looking up from her laptop. "You're late. Again." "I'm sorry, Ms. Dawson. My daughter." "Your daughter isn't my employee," she cut him off sharply. "This is a business. If I excuse one, I excuse them all." Mark lowered his eyes, gripping his hat. "Please, I need this job. I'm doing everything I can." Claire sighed, her patience thinning. "And yet, it's not enough. You're talented, Mark, but I can't build a company on excuses. You're dismissed." He froze. His lips parted but no words came out. Finally, he nodded quietly, "I understand." He packed his things in silence. Some colleagues avoided his gaze. Others whispered apologies. That night, Mark tucked Lily into bed, promising everything would be okay. But inside, his heart was breaking. When she asked, "Daddy, will we still have ice cream Fridays?" he smiled through tears. "Of course, sweetheart. Daddy will always find a way." And so he did. The next day, Claire couldn't shake the look in Mark's eyes. Something about his quiet acceptance unsettled her. By evening, as she reviewed employee reports, she found one thing odd. Despite his repeated tardiness, Mark had the highest repair efficiency in the department. He'd completed triple the workload of others. Her assistant mentioned, he used to stay late after everyone left. "I don't know why." He said he had a second job. Curiosity sparked. Claire decided to see for herself. That night, she followed the address listed on his file. It led her to a small, run-down community center on the edge of town. There she saw the scene that would haunt her forever: Mark, surrounded by a group of disabled children. He wasn't just helping them, he was building for them. Old wheelchairs lined the walls, stacks of scrap metal turned into makeshift prosthetics. Mark's hands were covered in grease, but his eyes shone with warmth. "All right, champ," he said, fitting a small boy with a leg brace. "Try it now." The boy wobbled, then stood. The room burst into cheers. Claire's eyes filled. She realized why he'd been late. He was dropping off his daughter, then coming here, giving every spare second to help others like her. She stepped inside quietly. "Mark." He looked up, startled. "Ms. Dawson, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same," she whispered. He wiped his hands awkwardly. "Just helping out." These kids can't afford repairs or prosthetics, so I use old parts. I'm no doctor, but sometimes a working limb means they can play again. Claire's voice trembled. You were doing this after work. And I fired you. He smiled faintly. It's okay. I understand. You did what you had to. I'll find something else. But Claire couldn't leave. She watched as Lily, sitting on a small stool, clapped proudly while her dad fixed another brace. The love in that room was something no corporate success could buy. By the next morning, Claire made a decision that would change everything. She called a company-wide meeting and announced the creation of a new department, Dawson Dynamics Outreach, Adaptive Tech for Kids. And at the top of the list of hires was Mark Evans, Head of Design and Innovation. When she handed him the offer letter, she said, "This time, you're not an employee, Mark. You're a partner." He stood frozen, disbelief on his face. Why me? Because, she smiled softly, I finally understand what real work looks like. You weren't late, Mark, you were right on time, for the people who needed you most. Sometimes, the people we judge the fastest are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. Success isn't always measured by punctuality, profits, or perfection. Sometimes, it's measured by purpose. Mark lost his job, but he found his calling. And Claire discovered that a true leader doesn't just build a company, they build people.